Okay guys, so if you watched my previous video I made today on perfect squares, I'm going to approach this the same way. Then I'm going to make another video with similar problems where I do it with the X method again. Okay? So you can compare and contrast, see which way you like better. But anyways, we're going to factor this my favorite way, which is basically guessing and checking. So we're doing this exercise right here, by the way. Practice factor quadratics by grouping. Now, Mr. Khan actually factors these with the X method and then groups them. Okay? Again, I'm going to do it my way and see if you like it better. Here we go. So in this one, first of all, 12, 6, 17 is prime. I can't do a GCF. So here's what I'm going to do. I know when I factor this, okay, it's going to involve two binomials in parentheses, right? Now, see that 12x squared, guys? What is the most common way to multiply to get 12? Isn't it 4 times 3? So I'm going to do 4x times 3x. That's going to give me 12x squared. Now, guys, look at the number at the end. What's the most common way to do 6? And it's not 6 times 1, is it? Isn't it 2 times 3? So, guys, check this out. I'm going to just do 2 times 3. And if I'm wrong, then I switch them, as you'll find out. So check this out. I know in my inner loop, 2 times 3 is 6x. In my outer loop, 3 times 4x is 12x. Does 6x and 12x make 17x? No, they would make like 18x, right? So that's not good. So, what are we going to do is this, guys. Since 2 times 3 didn't work, how about we try 3 times 2? 3 times 2 is still 6. All I did was commutative property, right? Now, look at the difference here. With the 3 here, my inner loop now is 3 times 3x is 9x. My outer loop is 2 times 4, which is 8x. Can I now get a 17x? Yes, I can. 8 and 9 is 17. Watch your signs. That is a plus 17 there. So, guys, you know what all I have to do now is make these pluses. In other words, what you're going to type in there is 4x plus 3 times with 3x plus 2. And that's the correct factored form. Okay, let's try one more with guess and check. Look at this one right here, guys. The 15 is odd. That doesn't work with the 2 and the 8, right? Now, I know it's a little hard to see, guys, but there is a minus there and a minus there. So, the next thing I wanted to remind you of today is whenever there's a minus or negative with the x squared term, guys, factor out the minus. Why? Because you just made your life at least 10 times easier that way. So watch this. I'm going to factor out that negative. That means I have a positive 8x squared now. I have a plus 15x. I have a minus 2. And again, if you want to check, there's my negative 8x squared. There's my minus 15x. There's my plus 2. Okay? So now that I have the negative out of my way, it's still there, guys, but we're not going to work with it right now. I can now factor this. Now again, guys, you could use the X method. There's nothing wrong with the X method. But let me show you my way. I'm going to do a set of parentheses. Guys, what's the most common way to do 8x squared? 4x times 2x. Look at the 2 at the end. What's the common, actually the only way to do a 2? 1 times 2. Now, guys, if I did 1 times 2 and I checked my inner and outer loops, it would not work. Okay? But watch this. If I do 2 times 1, let's see what I get. 2 times 2 is 4x. My outer loop, 1 times 4x is 4x. Wait a minute. 4x and 4x can't make 15x. So what do? Guess what, guys? Don't panic. We're going to start over right over here. You see, 4 and 2 did not work. Instead, how about we try 8x times x instead? Now, let's try 1 times 2 to give me the 2 here. And my inner loop is 1x. My outer loop is 16x. Can I get a plus 15? If I do 16 minus 1, right? So all I have to do is put a 1 to make that a minus 1. A plus 2 times 8 is 16x. Again, that's going to give me 15x. So what I type in here, guys, is negative. Don't forget we started out with a negative. 8x minus 1, x plus 2. Now, some of you may say, wait a minute, the x method works easy on this one, or easier. That may be true, guys, but what happens when the numbers get big? Right? That's why I like to do guess and check. All right. And matter of fact, I actually did this in my head as I was making this video for you, to be honest, guys. But you see how I tried with 4 and 2? It didn't work. So then to make 8, I tried 8 times 1. That's all I'm doing is I'm just guessing and checking. Guessing and checking. Eventually the right combination is going to fall for me. Okay? Okay, guys. Let's try one more. You ready? Notice there is a minus in front, guys. What should I do? Let's factor it out. That gives me 3x squared minus 17x plus 20. In other words, all of these just change their signs when I take the negative out, right? Now, again, I'm not going to do this with the x method. With the x method, guys, you have to deal with 60. Okay? 3 times 20, 60. Instead, I'm just going to guess and check again. I'm going to do my parentheses. Guys, how do we make 3x squared? There's only one way. 3x times x. How, or what's the most common way to make 20? Isn't it 4 times 5? Now let's see what happens. Isn't 4 times x 4x? Isn't 5 times 3 15x? Does that give me minus 17x? No, it doesn't. But don't panic, guys. Because instead of 4 and 5, how about we do 5 and 4? Let's see what happens. Now, 5 times x gives me a 5x. The 4 times the 3x for my outer loop gives me 12x. And I can get negative 17 if I make them both negative. So I'm just going to do minus, minus, and I know they're both negative. So here's your final answer. Don't forget there was a negative. And then you would say 3x minus 5, x minus 4. Now, guys, here's some things hopefully you learned at least. When there is a negative in front, factor it out first. Before you even start, look at the numbers and see if you can do a GCF. Now, none of these had a GCF that we could do. But this one had a negative. That's why I factored it out first before I did anything else. If you want to do the X method, by the way, guys, do it. I'm not going to force you to do it my way. If you want to do it with the X method, guys, please do it. Just make sure you do it right. Okay? But anyways, hopefully the more I practice factoring with you guys, eventually you guys are going to get better at this. Okay? Some of you guys are struggling with factoring, and that's a scary idea and thought when I know that factoring is so important for IM3, for trig and pre-calc, for college algebra. All right, guys, see you around.